The self-reflecting narcissist. No narcissist self-reflects. We are not imbued with that capability. This is because we must always be moving forward. Like some gargantuan machine that must gather that fuel, that must impose control, that must suck in the character traits and extort the residual benefits, we must always be moving forward, consuming, devouring, controlling, acquiring, sequestrating. This does not leave us with time to sit and ponder upon our behaviour. This does not allow for time for us to sit in quiet reflection about the things that we have done and the things that we have caused to happen. Lesser narcissists, at the most base of our brethren, don't even create the appearance of self-reflection. They're always driving forward. Like any narcissist, living in the moment, save from those which are greater or ultra. But the vast majority of narcissists being lesser and mid-range means that therefore the vast majority of narcissists do live in the moment. The lesser narcissist, when he has assaulted his manager at work because he chastised him for being late for the third day running, and therefore asserted control over him by headbutting him, does not return home and sit down and think, "Fuck me, I'm a complete idiot. I've lost my job. How am I going to pay my bills? This is going to cause problems now with the wife because she'll be disappointed in the fact that I've lost my job. I could face criminal charges for physically assaulting this man." Not at all. Any lesser narcissist that would engage in such behaviour, which would typically be lower lesser or middle lesser, and possibly lesser upper lesser type B, does not go home and reflect upon their actions in a way that causes genuine consideration of their behaviour, an assessment of what occurred for them to reflect on it in order to better themselves and improve in terms of recognising that they have done wrong. The narcissism does not allow it. There is no conscience, there is no sense of guilt, there is no culpability, because if any of those things came to rest upon us, they would affect our control. They would hinder us, pin us down, slow us down, and therefore they cannot happen. There is no capacity for them whatsoever. It is not the case that the narcissist consciously shuts out the capability to self-reflect, to look upon the behaviour and wonder, did I do the right thing there? Was I dishonest and inappropriately so? No. We are designed without that capability. We are designed without guilt or conscience or remorse. They are not needed in what we are. And therefore, that lesser narcissist, when he returns home, if his wife was to say to him, "How was work today?" he would probably say, "Got sacked." And she'd say, "Whatever for?" And he would, because of his lack of awareness, say, "That prick of a warehouse manager was on my case again." The paranoia of the narcissist, the victim mentality, the fact that it's never his fault. And so I headbutted him. The wife responds, "Why on earth did you do that, you pillock?" And his response isn't, "I know, aren't I a silly Billy for doing that? I'm ever so sorry, I shouldn't have behaved that way." No, his narcissism screams, "You are Bill Bloggs. You are not responsible." And this occurs in his unconscious, causing him to reply, "What are you talking about? He deserved it. He's been on my case for months. I was always going to stick it to him." "Well, you need to go and get another job." "I will," responds the narcissist. "Well, what are we going to do for money?" "I don't fucking know. You sort it out," comes the response. Abrogation of responsibility. And if his wife continues to upbraid him about his poor selection of response by headbutting that manager, she'll get it. He'll backhand her, or he'll storm out, because he doesn't do accountability. And if he does backhand her and then storm out and go down the pub and meet his friend there who asks him, "Hey, how's it going?" He's more likely to say, fucking shitty day, lost my job, wife's being a pain in the arse. And when he explains, and the friend goes, Jesus Christ, what you go and do that for, Bill? He will turn on his friend. He won't say, actually, Fred, thank you for pointing this out to me. You've caused me to realise that I've made a mistake here. It's good for you to point that out to me, and I've listened. Not at all. He's a lesser narcissist. He'll turn on his friend, because, like any narcissist, he's never responsible. It's always somebody else's fault. And therefore, the lesser narcissist, whether lower lesser, middle lesser, upper lesser A, or upper lesser B, has no capacity for self-reflection. Let's take, for example, former President Trump, and he gives a press conference where he's his usual brutish, belligerent self. Fair enough, that's how he operates. It doesn't come across particularly well, though. It's not polished. Some people don't care about that. Others think that it's not statesmanlike. Did you think that he then retired to the Oval Office and thought to himself, geez, Donny baby, that was an absolutely horrendous press conference you gave there. You came across like a right oaf. Of course not. His narcissism said, you're Donald Trump. You're the best. And that enables him to always move forward. He doesn't look back on it and think, fuck me, I buggered that one up, didn't I? No, he thinks it was brilliant, and anybody who suggests the contrary, they're dishonest, they don't know what they're talking about, it's fake news. His narcissism allows him to dismiss it. There's no self-reflection. When it comes to mid-range narcissists, this is where you invariably become conned and think there is some capacity for self-reflection, but there isn't. What mid-rangers are good at doing is make it seem that they've reflected on their behaviour. I've thought about what I've done, and I'm truly sorry. No, he's not. He hasn't given it a moment's thought. It's just that in the moment of when he has to control you, his narcissism in his unconscious tells him, what you need to do here is say that you've thought about your behaviour and you realise that you've done wrong, because by doing that, you'll now be able to appear as if you're contrite, appear as if you're going to make changes, and that will enable you to get control over this appliance. That's what the narcissism suggests in the unconscious, so the narcissist, unaware of what's really going on, says, I've thought about my behaviour, and I realise that I've made mistakes. He hasn't been thinking about his behaviour at all. He's been busy on the internet, flirting with new prospects, or watching the ball game. You were the furthest from his mind, because his narcissism didn't need him to think about you. But what mid-range narcissists do, because of their cognitive empathy, their use of false contrition, false compassion, promise changed, and pity plays, is to get you to think that they have reflected on what they've done. I realise I have to change. I've looked deep within myself and examined how I have behaved these last few months, and I've come to the conclusion that I need to be a better person. I know that I've done wrong, and it's taken you at long last to be the one that has enabled me to see this. I'm ever so grateful, and all I ask is that you give me another chance, to give me an opportunity to have a period of self-reflection to ensure that I make the changes that are required. This is all horse shit, and these are the comments that are issued by mid-range narcissists to make themselves sound deep, to make themselves sound like they have the capacity to be contrite and compassionate for what has happened to you. But this is just the activation of their false cognitive empathy, and it's being done to con you. The mid-ranger will say, I've sat those long, dark nights thinking about what I've done. He hasn't. He's been scurrying around in the depths of the internet chasing other people. He just creates the impression that that's what he's been doing. And of course, your emotional thinking wants you to believe that that's what's been happening, invariably for two reasons. The first is, you want the narcissist to have felt some pain, that he suffered for his bad behaviour towards you, that he has been placed in a position of anguish for many days and weeks, lamenting his torture of you. And also, your own empathic trait of compassion, decency and honesty wants the narcissist to see that he's done wrong and to improve himself, to make things better. Your empathic trait of the desire to heal and to fix, causing you to think, he now knows better. He's going to make improvements. Because you see the upside of things. You want the bright side. But you're just being conned. The mid-range narcissist is no more capable of self-reflection than the lesser narcissist. But what they do is they make a decent show of pretending that they've been engaging in reflection. What about the greater and the ultra? We don't utilize pity plays. You might occasionally hear the greater narcissist say, I've considered what I've done, and I realise that mistakes were made and improvements have to be effected. It's unusual, but it can happen. Again, there has been no reflection. It is just a manipulation in the minute. Greater narcissists and the ultra differ from the other narcissists in that whilst there is no self-reflection in terms of accountability, culpability, conscience or remorse, there will be an analysis of what has happened for the purposes of using it to improve further in the future. Almost like a debrief after a mission, analysing what occurred and what can be improved upon. There's no acceptance of fault. There's no acceptance that it was incorrect, but it was good, but we can improve further. The greater and the ultra is capable of remembering events, just as lesser and mid-range narcissists are, but none of these narcissists remember those events with a sense of reflecting upon their own behaviours in a meaningful and genuine way. Lessers don't even really bother about looking back on what has happened. They might drag up the past in the instant, but they don't really refer to what has gone on because they're moving forward. Mid-range narcissists will reference remembering certain things, again, only to control in the moment. And they might remember something in order to aid them in their assertion of control, but it's not done with regard to enabling them to genuinely think about their behaviour and self-reflect. The greater and the ultra will look at what has gone on in the past. They will recall the past. They will think about the past. But not in terms of, I have done wrong. Not in terms of, I ought to have done that better. Not in terms of, I have made mistakes. But rather, they recall for the purposes of analysis and improvement. Not in terms of improving themselves, because they have not done anything wrong, but in terms of improvement with regard to becoming even more effective. Utilizing past data to scrutinize and analyze, to tweak it, to fine-tune it, to become even more effective. There is no such thing as a self-reflecting narcissist. Self-reflection incorporates with it the ability to recognize fault, allow for accountability, to embrace culpability, to recognize wrongdoing, to look deep within oneself and thereafter move forward through correction, adjustment, and wholesale change. None of those things ever happen with any type of narcissist. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.